Hi everybody, welcome back. So we are off on the start of another new week. I cannot believe it's November. Before you know it, it'll be the C word. Mariah has already done an advert where the song has come out. So get ready people, it's coming soon. So before we get on to royal news, quick update on Leela. She's doing extremely well. It's been honestly my very own miracle watching her recover at the speed that she is. She is her own worst enemy though, and we've had to start pinning her into a very confined space when we're not able to sit on the floor with her. This is because she is determined to drag her body across the floor and we cannot risk her injuring herself further. She is allowed outside the house, just in the garden, to go to the bathroom a couple of times a day, but only for a few minutes at a time. And she's trying to run when she's got this hammock on her and we're having to pull her back. But I'm sure that she's really grateful to be at home. She's been chewing toys, she's eating well. So far, so good. And you're beginning to see strength coming back into her legs. She was kicking herself in the face earlier and I was just so happy I started crying. So it's incredible and I cannot thank the doctors, well, the vets and the nurses that took such incredible good care of her enough. So on to royal news. We're going to start off with a nice positive video because Prince William has touched down in Brazil because he is over there for the Earthshot Prize being held in Rio de Janeiro. Now, I will be covering this week as the news starts to come out because I always get really irritated with the mainstream media who don't seem to explain to people very well what the winners or the finalists are actually doing. What is their invention or their idea? So I will definitely be covering that. The Earthshot Prize was launched just 5 years ago. They said it wouldn't work, but each year support and funding for not just the winners, but also the finalists as well has reached epic proportions. The global reach of the Earthshot Prize is already phenomenal. One of the big differences with the Earthshot Prize, I know some of you have heard my rant before, but it is about repairing the damage that we have done to the planet already. The Earthshot Prize is about bringing together people from all around the world that have come up with ideas of how we can undo some of the damage. And Prince William gave a lovely statement because he's given an interview to Hello magazine, if anybody wants to rush out and get a copy. And he said, "As a father, I think constantly about the world my children will inherit. I want them to grow up surrounded by nature, opportunity, and a sense of hope about the future. But I also know that unless we act boldly now, that the future is at risk. The Earthshot Prize is about turning the tide, about proving to our children that we are willing to fight for their tomorrow." Love it. He sounds like a king already. Certainly a king that I'm sure that many people will support. Now, the future heir to the throne has moved into what they have called their forever property, Forest Lodge. Both he and Catherine and the children spent the recent half term moving into the property. It wasn't meant to be ready until Christmas, but apparently the builders worked extra hard to make sure that the couple could move in as early as possible. The Prince and Princess threw a party for all of the staff and all of the workmen to thank them for their incredible hard work at a venue that is inside Windsor Great Park. After everything that the couple have been through in recent years, from losing Queen Elizabeth II, Catherine and the King's cancer battles, the war that has been waged on them, especially Catherine, by Harry and Meghan from over in Montecito, their little mouthpiece, Omid Scobie, calling Catherine the royal racist. I mean, I don't think anybody can deny that the last couple of years has probably had some really horrible moments for the family, and it's nice to hear that they're going to be having a fresh start and to be making some new and happier memories in their new home. And I do wonder if Prince Louis now has his own studio, perhaps soundproofed, where he can play his drum kit away from the rest of his siblings. Now, moving away from the real royals, let's talk about the ex-royals of Montecito, who seem rather desperate for attention, because she has managed to turn even the Dodgers winning the World Series, who until recently she had never supported publicly, into an opportunity to get herself in the news again. Yes, we have another cringe-worthy video that has been uploaded to Meghan's Instagram. And apparently this was meant to be when the Dodgers won the World Series. Now, Meghan had set up a camera conveniently, quite literally, so she could be the center of attention. It was at the perfect angle to film herself celebrating and squealing inside their apparent cinema room with her friend Kelly McKee-Safin. And I've got to play the clip because Kelly, I think, is communicating with nearby dolphins.
What?
Now, people on social media were quick to point out that this clearly wasn't Game 7. The reason being is because Kelly is with her and she had already uploaded a picture of her watching Game 7, the final game, with her daughter cheering on the Dodgers. So it looks like Meghan had pre-filmed this for it then to be used as her celebrating when they won. Kelly also did another post where she was slightly rubbing it in Harry's face because the Dodgers is her team, and she's implying, as you can see here, that Harry looks like a sad sack because his team lost. His team being the Blue Jays. Now, I'm sorry, I call this damage control due to the backlash that happened. There is no way that a real fan of the Blue Jays would have been caught dead wearing a Dodgers baseball cap. It is baseball treason, let alone going to cheer them on. No, this is Meghan and Harry doing a clap back on social media because so many people said he's the son of the King of Canada and he was cheering on the LA Dodgers. Now, the fact that Harry sat there looking completely expressionless, completely motionless, leads me to believe that even if they were watching Game 6, it had already finished. Such is Meghan's thirst for attention, it's clear that the game had probably been over with for a few minutes. That's why Kelly's sitting on a chair under a blanket, because you think that she would be a bit more excited. Meghan's like, oh my God, we've got to capture this moment and then release it. Yeah, that would be great. Kelly, join in. Yay! But this to me comes across like teenage girls on Instagram that are going to their first sleepover. It just seems rather ridiculous and it seems so completely forced and staged. As I said, their children aren't there with them. That again is rather bizarre. This is Harry that spoke about he wants to break generational curses because he didn't get to do a lot of normal things with his dad. Well, maybe taking them to a baseball game or at least sitting there watching it in your home cinema with your children might have been a nice thing to do. Now, another thing that I picked up on here, Harry is relegated to the other side of the cinema. Clearly, Meghan was sitting with Kelly. Harry's there with the dog. And I think this just cements his status, or rather where he appears in the hierarchy of their relationship. I'm pretty certain that Harry must really long for the days when he was just simply the spare in the royal family. And I think Harry does long for it because this is why he keeps trying to inject himself into stories to do with the royal family that have got absolutely nothing to do with him. Yes, apparently Harry is backing the King's decision to strip Andrew of his titles, although he's still actually angry that it wasn't done sooner because of what happened to he and Meghan when they quit and Megxit, because they were told pretty much immediately that they couldn't use HRH. Well, I don't know why he's angry because his wife is still clearly using her HRH as it all came out recently. But the fact is that Harry is implying somehow that he was, part of a consultation with his father over this? Why is he sticking his nose above the parapet again? It's clearly obvious that the king, despite not seeing his youngest son for 2 years, he could barely stay in a room with him. He didn't even last an hour, and there's no reports of them arranging to meet up again, probably because every single detail, including what cake was served, was leaked to the media, as well as what present he gave his father. Harry has got nothing to do with decisions being made by members of the royal family. Of that, I'm pretty 99% certain. Harry is so far out in the cold, he might as well be living with penguins in Chunga Changa. Now, I know this story is a little bit outdated and maybe some of you weren't aware of this one, but a few years ago, Russian pranksters managed to get hold of Prince Harry, yes, the security-conscious Harry, because they pretended to be great Greta Thunberg, and they were talking to him about rescuing penguins and trying to get them to a special island where they would be safe. And he went along with it, as in he didn't play along. He thought he was actually speaking to Greta Thunberg, and he thought Chunga Changa was a real place. As many people have said, Harry is not the sharpest tool in the shed. Now, of course, he is not the only one of the couple that has reared their head with the news to do with Andrew. Meghan cannot help herself. Even if the news is obviously predominantly negative about Andrew, she had to find a way to get herself in the headlines. At the same time, near enough, when Buckingham Palace released a statement stating that their thoughts will always be with the victims of any and all forms of abuse, as they were telling the public that Andrew is being stripped of absolutely everything. A huge public humiliation for Prince Andrew. Oh, no, sorry, formerly Prince Andrew, now just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Well, the smiling assassin made an appearance. Clearly, she had forgotten that she was trying to reinvent herself as a fashionista, basing her smile, I would say, on Victoria Beckham. You know, that sort of Mona Lisa. Is she smiling? Isn't she smiling? No, Meghan was back to her big megawatt Hollywood grin. Now, the photograph was taken down rather quickly, but not quick enough so that social media and, of course, the mainstream media didn't pick up on it. It stayed there just long enough, which, of course, as we know with Meghan, is completely deliberate. Now, a few people still believe that Meghan is friends with Princess Eugenie, because I see this story running every so often. Do you really believe that? I mean, some people can't believe that Meghan would do something like this on purpose. You know, they still think that she's, what, a nice human being and not a sociopath? Bearing in mind what she'd already done to Princess Eugenie, she and Jack, Eugenie and Jack, shall I say, had got engaged before Harry and Meghan, but they'd only told friends and family. And I think Meghan used that to pressure Harry into proposing to her. And then because Harry was higher up the hierarchy, they got to announce their engagement before Jack and Eugenie. They then had to wait, despite being engaged for longer. And then, of course, Harry and Meghan's wedding would be sooner as well. Meghan took the same wedding venue that Eugenie and Jack were getting married in. And I still have to say that I think Princess Eugenie and Jack had a far lovelier and more regal and royal wedding than the, well, gosh, the spectacle for the world, shall we call it, of Harry and Meghan that was over the top and overpriced and really, really dramatic. It was more about Meghan having her moment on the world stage than it was her marrying the apparent love of her life. But it wasn't just the wedding venue, the engagement announcement, getting married before. Meghan also put up a good fight to try and get hold of the tiara that Princess Eugenie got married in. A few mainstream media outlets even ran the story that Meghan was after the Vladimir tiara. There is no way anybody of the palace courtiers or the jewelers would have even had a conversation with Meghan that would have been on the list as a potential wear for her wedding to Harry. No, she was after Princess Eugenie's tiara, and I believe that's what started the argument, and I believe this is also why the Queen stepped in and she said she gets what I give her. And this is why Meghan got married in a very similar tiara to what Princess Eugenie did, obviously minus the beautiful emeralds. Meghan, as you guys know, the one thing that she's definitely famous for is plagiarism. She has no original thoughts or ideas of her own, so it makes sense that she would have been having a lovely conversation. Eugenie's excited about a wedding, and Meghan basically tried to steal everything, every idea that Eugenie had come up with. Again, Princess Eugenie, both dresses, I would say, were far, far prettier as well. So that was her own little bit of revenge, but not before Meghan, who quite clearly still didn't get her own way, did her pregnancy announcement at Eugenie's wedding. So yes, I know that Eugenie stayed friends with them afterwards, but I believe that was more to do with her relationship with Harry because she was very, very close with him. And if they were friends, Meghan doing a stunt like this, can you imagine how Princess Beatrice and Eugenie feel right now watching their father go through rings of fire every single day? At the moment, to me, it seems like the media are out for blood and they're not going to stop until they push Andrew into an early grave. And I want to talk more about that in my next video. But one thing with all of this drama surrounding Andrew, it's done a negative for Harry and Meghan, and I'm sure that they are sweating just as much as Andrew used to. And I believe that's because they've also realised alongside the public that titles can, in fact, be stripped without a lengthy process involving the government. So one day, at some point soon, we might see that smug grin wiped off of Meghan's face. Maybe not by this monarch, but certainly by the next. Meghan and Harry have pushed the boundaries over and over again. Meghan seems hell-bent in the last year of really poking the bear, and I think that that's really, really now going to backfire on them. I no longer believe it's a case of if, I believe it's a case of when.
It's so funny, too, that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now.
Perhaps not for long, love. Perhaps not for long. I think there's a lot of people around the world that would be more than happy to see that smug grin wiped off of their entitled and arrogant faces. So on that note, guys, I will be back with you very soon. I do want to talk more about Prince Andrew in my next video. And then as the week goes on, we will be covering the Earthshot Prize and some more positive stories to do with the real royals. So I hope to see you tomorrow. Take care for now. Bye.